Imagine I was infinitely wealthy and someone came to borrow $100 billion. I will still be infinitely wealthy. Now imagine another infinitely wealthy person gave me all of his infinite wealth. I will still be infinitely wealthy. But guess what? He will still be infinitely wealthy. This does not make sense, right? It's the same way it doesn't make sense to believe that the universe has always been in existence in the infinite past. This is a similar example that philosophers like Al-Ghazali used to propose that it is philosophically and illogically incorrect to say that the universe has always been in existence in the infinite past. In our ongoing origin series, specifically in the last episode, we looked at the case for intelligent design. And I brought forth some scientific arguments that support the case for intelligent design. In today's episode, we are going to be looking at the philosophical arguments and the theological arguments that support intelligent design. We ended last episode by talking about the Kalam Cosmological Argument and looking at it from a scientific perspective. In today's episode, we are going to start by looking at the Kalam Cosmological Argument from a philosophical angle. Welcome to AJ Sports with Ezekarel, the Unapologetics Bold Apologetics podcast. This is your space to grow in faith, defend what you believe, and respond to hard questions with wisdom and truth. Let's dive in, listen, and be edified. The Kalam Cosmological Argument was originally propounded by Al-Ghazali, a Persian philosopher who also belongs to the Islamic faith. But recently, it's been popularized by William Lane Craig, an American philosopher and a Christian apologist. But let's go back to the beginning. What did philosophers think about the origin of the universe at first? Aristotle, a Greek philosopher, believed the universe was eternal in the past. But Al-Ghazali, a Persian philosopher, believed otherwise. And he said that if the universe did not have a beginning, then the number of past events in the history of the universe is infinite. Al-Ghazali gives his argument using this illustration. If there are two planets orbiting around the sun, in this case Jupiter and Saturn, for every one time Jupiter orbits around the sun completely, Saturn orbits around the sun 2 times. He says if the universe has infinitely been in existence in the past, then Jupiter has orbited around the sun an infinite number of times, and Saturn has orbited around the sun an infinite number of times. This is mathematically absurd. What do I mean? X raised to power 1 and x raised to power 2 should not give you the same answer, because an increased multiplier should give you an increased result. But if the universe has always been in existence, the number of times Jupiter has orbited around the sun, x raised to power 1, and the number of times Saturn has orbited around the sun, x raised to power 2, or O raised to power 1, in this case, orbiting raised to power 1, orbiting raised to power 2, both equal infinity. This is mathematically absurd. Let us consider another illustration by David Hilbert, a German mathematician and philosopher of mathematics. He uses an illustration of an hotel with infinite numbers of rooms, fully occupied by infinite number of people. Now, each room has a single person in it. But because there are infinite numbers of rooms, there are also infinite number of people, and every room is occupied. David Hilbert then goes on to say that if one new guest arrives, or an infinite number of new guests arrives, there would still be room for them, since the hotel have infinite numbers of rooms, although the infinite numbers of rooms were already full. This is not supposed to make sense. If you are trying to understand it, it's not supposed to make sense. But let's visualize this using this equation. Infinity plus 1 equals infinity. And infinity plus infinity equals infinity. This is mathematically absurd. David Hilbert further explains by saying that if an infinite number of guests left the even numbered rooms, for instance, room 2, room 4, room 6, like that till the end, of which there isn't, there should still be an infinite number of people left in the hotel. So even though infinite number of people have left the hotel, infinite number of people should still remain in the hotel. But then, if it were only 3 people who left this hotel, an infinite number of people will still be left in the hotel. Here is a mathematical expression of this statement. Infinity minus infinity equals infinity. Infinity minus 3 still equals infinity. This is mathematically absurd. These philosophical arguments are used to propose the idea that the universe did not infinitely exist in the past. If the universe have always been in existence, then an infinite series of past events has been formed by adding one event after another. If the number of events leading up till today is infinite, then today wouldn't occur. But because we are in today, the number of events that happened before today cannot be infinite. Simply put, if the past is infinite, then it means the past hasn't ended. Therefore, we cannot be in the present. For example, if a person is always living in the past, things that happened in the past is how they live their life, they would never get to a time where they live in the present of what is currently happening around them. Because the present has a beginning and the past has an end, therefore the past had a beginning. You cannot make sense of an infinite past. This is philosophically and illogically incorrect. And this was the argument by philosophers like Al-Ghazali and David Hilbert. And this, in relation to the Kalam Cosmological Argument, relates to premise 2 that says the universe had a beginning, even without scientific evidences to prove it. Now, premise 1 that says whatever began to exist has a cause was generally accepted because from life experiences, it was seen clearly that whatever began to exist had a cause. So if whatever begins to exist has a cause, and through philosophy, we can agree that the universe had a beginning. Therefore, the universe has a cause. Another philosophical argument on the case of intelligent design is the teleological argument, which is also known as the argument from design. When we observe the universe, we see order, purpose, and complexity of various structures. From large structures like galaxies to smaller structures like organs in the human body. Take for instance the human eye. We see intricate complexity to the design of these structures and how they function. For order, we can see that there is order to day and night on earth. In the human body, there is an order to how we eat, and then our body digests the food, and then nutrients are extracted, sent into the bloodstream, while the waste product is excreted. There is order even in the human body. Order also means that things are not randomly changing as time goes on with no form of predictability at all. Instead, what we observe is that a number of things remain constant, and those things that change can be predicted based on our understanding of what we can observe in the universe we live in. On purpose, we can recognize the reasons why things exist the way they are. For instance, The Earth is tilted 23.5 degrees on its axis in order to create seasons on the Earth. Another example on purpose is that the Earth revolves on its axis in order to ensure that everyone on Earth experiences both day and night. And if the Earth did not revolve on its axis, it would be so difficult to calculate the time of the day. On complexity, first and foremost, we have observed so many complex structures in the universe, from galaxies down to human anatomy and even other living organisms. And based on what we can observe from man-made objects, we also see complexities like the telephone, the computers, and even something as small as a wristwatch. We see the complexities of these machines and how they function. If it took intelligent design to manufacture these products, how much more the human anatomy, living organisms, and the universe at large that is more complex than these man-made objects. Definitely, these complex structures were created through intelligent design. And if it requires human intelligence to understand how these structures operate in the universe, it definitely means intelligence is required for its creation or design. Still on complexity, there is a scientific or biological term known as irreducible complexity. And it holds that certain biological systems are too complex to have evolved gradually. Michael Behe, a biochemist, proposed the idea that such biological systems would be non-functional if any single parts were removed, and therefore it could not have developed through a step-by-step process of natural selection. One of such biological systems is the human eye. If any part of the human eye wasn't available, then the human eye would not be functional at all. And every part needs to come into existence at the same time in order for the human eye to be functional. Another philosophical argument for the case of intelligent design is the moral argument. If objective moral values really exist, such as the belief that murder is truly wrong everywhere in the world, then there must be a source beyond human opinion that holds murder as wrong and therefore applies it to every human. This source is known as the moral lawgiver, which could potentially be the intelligent designer in charge of the universe and all that he has created. Is there truly objective moral values? We will dive further into the moral arguments when we begin our series on morality. Let's move on to the final argument, which is the theological argument. And according to the Christian faith and scriptures, God, who is the creator of the heavens and the earth, is responsible for the origin of the universe and life on earth, as we see in Genesis chapter 1. Another thing is that man is made in the image of God, imago Dei. This is what makes humans unique and set us far apart from all other living species that exist today. Lastly, according to John chapter 1, all things were made through the Word who became incarnate in the person of Jesus Christ. But then, Christianity is just one religion out of so many religions in the world with their different beliefs about the Supreme Being and how He created the world. So in a future episode, we are going to look at who the potential designer is to all that exists. we are going to examine some of these religions and what they believe to determine if there is a single intelligent designer to this world or a design agency filled with so many designers responsible for designing different aspects of the universe we live in. We are also going to look at who or what science proposes as the potential designer to the universe. But in our next episode, we will be looking at some objections and questions raised against the case for intelligent design. Yes, there are objections like the Anthropic Principle, the Copernican Principle, faulty design, and questions like who designed the designer. We'll be looking at this and many more in the next episode here on AJ Sports with Ezekarel. Thank you so much for listening thus far to the end of this episode. Please remember to like this episode, drop your comments, ask questions. Remember to share this episode with your friends, with your family, and on your social media platform. Thank you once again and keep listening to AJ Sports with Ezekarel.